We are going to take them now, with or without the girl and members of our family. We are going to take them to the police and hand them over to the police.
Nigerians were shocked to the bone marrow when they saw the video of the assault by vigilante members in Anambra State on an innocent youth copper. Her offense, nothing. She did absolutely nothing. These guys just invaded their lodge and started assaulting anyone in sight. After the backlash by Nigerians, the Anambra State government arrested the gangsters involved in this. They have now handed them over to the police, and now the lady involved is now telling her story. Yes, she explains everything that happened on that fateful day. After we hear her story, we will hear Professor Odinkalu's take on the whole saga, also why he opposes state police. Let's take a listen.
I myself and my co-coppers were just in our coppers lodge, charging our phones, minding our own business as youths that we are, as usual. So we had a knock on the door, and at first we thought it was a neighbor's door because it was a 3-story building with a lot of flats, a lot of rooms. So we actually thought it was a neighbor's door that was being knocked on. So we ignored the first time. Until we heard it again, but this time it was way more aggressive, and it was like the person on the other end was angry about being ignored. So I decided, okay, let me go and check if it's our door that is being knocked or who is at the other end. Even before I got to the door was kicked in. If I had even made a step further, the door would have hit me in, and only God knows what. So on the other end of the door, I saw a masked man with a gun. I don't know what type of gun. And he wasn't wearing any form of uniform, whether military or just plain uniform. He wasn't wearing no form of identification. At first I was afraid that it was an armed robber, until I heard him say, all of you outside. That was when I summoned a little courage and was like, outside as how? All of us here are coppers. All of us in this room, this particular room you kicked in, all of us here are coppers. It was the event of this argument. My colleagues came out and was like, what's going on? And then I told them that he's asking us to come outside for reasons he didn't explain. He didn't even introduce himself or tell us where he's coming from. So my colleague was like, all of us here are coppers. If you want to even say our ID card, he went inside, got his ID card, and even told the others to bring out their ID card and everything for identification, just to clear ourselves. But they ignored, even forced themselves inside our rooms, packed our laptops, our phones, and everything. And they became very, very aggressive. That what gave us rights? What kind of stupid coppers that were doing Yahoo, were doing this and that inside the room? And we're even trying to explain ourselves, even those of us that were not with our ID cards because we came from our PPA. We're even offering to show them our portal, our NYC portal, as evidence that we're coppers, we are serving coppers. They ignored everything and forced us downstairs, pushed us, like they almost pushed me down the staircase, telling me that I'm the one that is even having mouth. That what gave me rights as a woman to challenge them. So when we got downstairs, we saw their vehicle. That was when we even identified that, oh, these people are Anambra Vigilante group, probably Odogashi. That was what was written on the vehicles that we saw outside. So when I even if you want to force us, even if you want to go with you, we should at least call somebody, either our LGI or we should call our proprietor, so that they will know that we're going somewhere with people, because you didn't introduce yourself. We don't even know you. We don't know where you are taking us, so we can't just follow you like that. That was when they started beating me. That what gave me the right, what gave me the mouth to confront them, to tell. They even went ahead to tell us that if we even call anybody or if we contact anybody, that they are going to smash our phones on the floor. They beat me, tore my clothes on my body. Even my colleague that was pleading with them that you cannot be hitting a lady like this. About 5, how many of them they hit her with an iron rod. And why would she be pleading on my behalf? Okay, let them at least let me change. Before following them, they forced me into the vehicle, was even pressing my neck inside the vehicle, slapping me, doing all sorts of nonsense.
I don't think there's any way to shape mouth about what happened, to use a Nigerian expression, shaping mouth. I don't think there's any way to shape mouth about what happened to that young lady. It's disgraceful, it's criminal, it's dehumanizing. Nobody should be treated like that, whatever the reason is. Whatever the reason is. And obviously there is no reason for anyone to be treated like that. So, first of all, at least the Anambra state government has brought out 8 people whom it says we are responsible for that terrible incident, and has said they have cashiered them, they've sacked them from the Udoga Vigilante, and they're handing them over to the police for criminal sanctions, for prosecution, or for investigation, I presume. Now, of course, under the Constitution, the Attorney General has ultimate control of criminal proceedings, and my presumption, therefore, is that the police will work under the authority of the Anambra state government to ensure proper accountability for what transpired. My hope also is that without prompting, the Anambra state government will actually issue a formal apology to the young woman with full compensation before it goes to court. To be perfectly honest with you, there is no way to remedy the kind of thing that's happened to that woman, okay, that young woman. But at least if the government can offer her a full apology as well as some form of compensation, at least it will begin to show that they take the issue seriously in this particular case, but also that they take seriously the need to address that pathology. Now, addressing that pathology really is the issue. I told you, I think on these spaces, I personally am opposed at this particular time in our political evolution to state police because of these kinds of things. When states maintain militias and you are unable to standardize training and doctrine for them, these things are going to be par for the course. And my hope is that people from other states here tonight can at least testify to their own experiences of these state-sponsored militias, which is, in my view, what they are increasingly sprouting all over the country. In Imo State, it is called something else, right? Ibubago, I think, is what it is called in Imo State. Benue State has its own under the Benue State Vigilante law. Kano State has its own. It's called Hisba. Jigawa State has its own. So different states have got their own militias under different guises. Of course, in Southwest is Amoteku. Now, everyone will have stories of abuses by these state-sponsored militias. And that is because the state-sponsored militias don't operate under a scheme that is regulated by anybody. And there is no framework of training and doctrine that standardizes their operational modalities or subjects them to standardized mechanisms, modus operandi. So they simply do whatever they want and enjoy political cover. And of course, in political season, which is what a state like Anambra is entering now, the pressure for them to enjoy enhanced political cover is greater. And therefore, they think they can get away with murder quite literally. I mean, in the Nigeria police force, it's difficult enough to maintain training and doctrine standards. And largely because the system of training and doctrine in the police training schools has essentially collapsed, because you had the police training college and you would go from there through the staff college and over time, as you progress up the ladder, you get exposure to better training and as a result, greater professionalism and professionalization, right? But that does not exist with these militias. There's no command structure. Command and control is very malleable, okay? Now, if we cannot address that and we're saying establish state police, every state governor will control their own police to their own standards and will beside you the day they remember you. You will go, if you're not wearing boxers, you're finished. All your bola will be in the marketplace. This is the kind of thing that a lot of people don't realize with our emotional reaction to the idea of state police. Now, take what has happened with prisons, okay? We've relocated prisons from exclusive legislative list to concurrent list. And we've told every state, you can create your own prisons without actually reasoning through how a state runs prisons. So you take a terrorist who will be a special category threat to public security in one country. The terrorist is Nigeria. And you tell a state to keep them in their prison. The state does not have the money to maintain the kind of facilities needed to contain the terrorist. The person will wander around, wander loose, and return to society to threaten all of us
but we say, yes, it is true federalism. Everybody must own their own states, their own prisons, without reflecting our respective realities in the country and its capabilities and frailties. This is my problem with this emotional reaction to state police. It all is emotionally sensible until it confronts reality, and then it breaks down, in a very terrible way. And that's exactly what's happened with this young woman. I'm not saying that is going to convince anybody, any of the advocates of state police, that the idea needs reasoning through much more rigorously. But that's exactly what it is, unfortunately. As I said, we have an emotional response as a people to the idea of state police. And Udogachi and arrangements like that, Amotekun and all of that, are responses to what is perceived widely, and in my view rightly, as a failure of security provisioning by the federal government, which, as a result of the Civil War, came to a settlement that security institutions can only be controlled by the federal government. It's what I call war trauma doctrine. Now, that settlement obviously is broken down, and we are trying to figure out how to find a suitable substitute or successor to that settlement, and we've not found one. So in that transitional period, different entities are coming up with different things, and it began, of course, with the creation of the Hisba and the introduction of hudud crimes in Zamfara State in 2001. And since that time, different states have responded differently. But the reality is that over that period, in pretty much every state, starting from Zamfara State, the experiments have not clearly, on the contrary, in most states, they have failed. Zamfara State was one of the first states to introduce, hudud crimes and Hisba. What happened? See where Zamfara State is today, right? One of the first states to adopt a vigilante law was Benue State. See where Benue State is today. Another of the first states to adopt a vigilante law was Anambra State, if you remember, under Governor Mbadinuju. Yes? And it was under Anambra State vigilante law of 2001 that they invited Bakassi into Anambra State. See what happened. See where that ended the state in. All right? So when you go through the record of our experiments in state militias, go through it logically and factually, they have not worked. They have not worked precisely because there has been no effort to standardize, no care for rigor in standardizing training, doctrine, and operational modalities, as well as provisioning. So they've run amok, become instruments for political oppression, and ultimately failed. And failed the people. And quite apart from all of that, they have increased rather than alleviated the security pathologies in each of the territories in which they were created. So why don't we spend some time and try and figure these things out and address them as design and governance issues, rather than emote our way through the situation? That seems to me to be the challenge, whether it's in Anambra or it's in any other state. From A to Z, from Anambra to Zamfara, we have exactly the same pathologies. It's not going to change. This prayer and fasting will not solve this problem. And no, can wishful thinking do it?